First of all, are there any agenda updates that anyone would like to add that are not currently in? Just come off of mute and tell us, or you can add your agenda item to the agenda directly at the link, which we will share in chat, which is here. Going once, going twice. Okay. Why don't we start out with reminders? So our first reminder is that daylight savings time in the US changed on March 9th. This meeting is tied to US Central and Chicago time, so we may be an hour off now for those who change to daylight savings time at the end of March or don't share at all. The second reminder is the practitioner guide for demonstrating value is still seeking feedback. So if anyone who hasn't had a chance to give that a look, please do so. Link is the next reminder that we have is that CHAOSScon North America 2025 will be co-located at the Open Source Summit North America in Denver, Colorado. It's going to be happening on June 26th from 1:30 to 5 o'clock p.m. right after OSS Summit. Registration to OSSNA is required. So once you register, be sure to sign up for that side event. Along with other events that are happening, All Things Open is going to be happening again this year. It will be October 12th through the 14th in Raleigh, North Carolina. And the call for proposals closes on March 28th. So if folks have not had a chance yet, go ahead and add this call for proposals that's in chat to your to-do list. And then our last reminder for events today is the Open Source Summit EU, which is going to be happening from August 25th through August 27th, will be in Amsterdam. And that call for proposals is closing on April 14th. So I will post that CFP into the chat for any folks who would like to get registered up for that one as well. And that is all the reminders that were on our agenda. Does anyone have any event announcements or reminders they'd like to share with the group for any upcoming events before we get into the main agenda? I'm pretty sure there's this open source week that's coming up in the near future. Perhaps someone on the call has a link or some details for that we can share with the group.
Well, hello everyone. I believe this is my first time joining the group with you all here, this specific group. So I didn't speak up right away, but it's good to see you all. For those of you who maybe I haven't met or it's been a while, Michael Downey here. I am with the Open Source Program Office and the UN Development Program, UNDP, and part of our work is building OSPOs in countries throughout the global majority. So we are rapidly starting to pilot a program to do that. As Remy mentioned, and I will drop a link in the chat and in the notes, we have coming up rapidly I believe the third annual iteration of our what was formerly called the OSPOs for Good conference, but is now expanded into UN Open Source Week. We've gone from 2 days to a full week long this time. We're hoping to also double our attendance this year from 500 to up to 1,000 people. We've got a lot more space, have quite a few more days. We're still doing a full day of OSPO related content on Wednesday of the week, with the addition of some breakout rooms as well. So it won't be a single track anymore. It will be a multi-tracked event, still with plenaries, but also with some breakout time. We're adding another day for what's called Digital Public Infrastructure Day. For those who aren't familiar with the term, it's just this idea of providing services to people throughout a country or throughout a government that are served through digital means. It's the kind of the modern evolution of traditional infrastructure through tech. And then we're still doing a very open day on Friday. We've got a new venue for side events at a business that's a little bit closer than the Microsoft campus was to our UN HQ. All of that, the details for all of these are still kind of up in the air. We haven't done a formal call for proposals yet, but we're just starting to pull together the organizing teams for each of these themes. I didn't mention there's also a 2-day hackathon at the beginning of the week that we're calling the UN Tech Over. So we're going to tech over the UN General Assembly Hall that you've seen in the movies and everything with open source hackers on hopefully several different projects and themes for those 2 days. So I will drop the link as soon as I can multitask my way over to that browser. And again, hoping we can see some of you there, or at least feel free to spread the word. We love to get a wide cross a representative kind of population of people working with OSPOs, working with open source in the private sector, in academia and civil society, you name it, because the UN needs to learn from everyone who's come before. And there's quite a few of us out there. So we're hoping to bridge cultures, as the UN loves to do, in more than one way. It was quite a fun experience last time, seeing all the various hacker attire mixed amongst the UN suits. It's perfect. So hope some of you can join us, and we realize it's in the US and apologize for the challenges of travel, but at least we'll still do some online access and video streaming as well for the event. Jeremy, back to you.
Thanks so much, Mike. We are definitely hopeful that we can join again this year. We'll be looking out for those invites, and thank you for posting the link in channel. I took a few notes in the agenda. I will add them I'll add the link to those notes. Okay. So if anyone else has any other agenda items, feel free to add them now. Our team has some updates from our end, and we're happy to go and be first, but if anyone else has anything else to add, there's still plenty of time in the agenda, I think, to cover any other elements. So the first update that we have, I'm actually going to go out of order, is that our team recently published a new front end for our open source guide. So OSPOs often have guides, which are like overall handbooks of all the different things that an OSPO does, or policies they have, backgrounds, etc. We have been developing this guide over the course of about a year, and that is now with a beautiful front end. We are really happy with how it looks. We actually forked it from the 18F repositories, where they were publishing some of their guides. So we are excited to share that with the community, and hopefully there's some stuff in there that's interesting and useful. Of course, it is our first release of the new front end, so if you see any bugs or anything, let us know. But we are really happy to have that footprint and to share it with the OSPO community at large. We absolutely have been influenced by many of the other people who attend this call regularly and have worked with us in the past. So patches are welcome. Thank you everyone for your inspiration and your contributions. We will continue working the open and sharing our policies and our stories at that new repo. And speaking of new policies and projects, one of the things that we wanted to bring up today was we have a new template that we have been working on, and that is called community.md. So we were originally inspired by the CHAOSS community's community contributions.md file. This file is sort of a place where we're trying to capture the contributions of people who are not necessarily in the Git log. So CHAOSS has like a manual process for adding those people, what contributions they have made. We have a slightly different use case for ours, which is that oftentimes for government repositories, the business owners and other stakeholders who will be ultimately responsible for the repository are not the same people as the committers who are pushing to the repo. So keeping track of those people somewhere so that in the future, for continuity and succession, they can be reached, posed a bit of a challenge because we've got these files like code owner and we've got files like maintainers.md, and both of those have really strict guidelines around what should be in them. Code owners is actually a thing that you use to assign issues and notify people when some part of the code needs to be changed or to request pull requests, reviews. So it's a very well understood sort of file, and it doesn't really work well if you don't have a GitHub account. And we also had some other files in our repository templates that included things like our community guidelines and our maintainers file. And actually, it was Natalia on our team who really had the insight to say like, hey, all of this stuff could potentially go into one file and we could reduce the number of files that we keep and we could sort of put it all into one place. So we have this new community.md file, and maybe I could pass it over to Natalia, and if you wanted to do a little screen share and walk through the template with folks on the stream,
Yes,
if
for
you're down for
sure.
that. Cool.
Yes, let me bring it up. Okay. Okay, cool. I'm gonna share a screen right now. Okay, cool. Thanks, Remy. So here is our version 1 of the community.md file, and I'll go over the contents with you. So first we have a table with all of the project members, and this can be the people that work on the repository as well as people that are not in the Git log but are still involved in the project. Then we have roles and responsibilities where we list the maintainers, approvers, and reviewers of the repository. And then we also show a table of their roles and responsibilities as well. Then we have a list of contributors to the repository, and this we generate through our GitHub action over here. And the GitHub action lives in the .github folder that's in all of our templates. Afterwards, we still want to credit alumni that have made contributions in the past to the project but aren't actively involved. So we offer a section for that. And then this section over here is the community guidelines for the repository. And there the user can read all about the principles, guidelines, and acknowledgements of the project. And then, so this is a template. So to assist project teams with filling out this information, we have comments over here that provide guidance on how to fill in that information. Yep, and I think that's pretty much it. But to kind of sum everything up, here is the new addition that we made to our maturity model framework, where community.md is required for all open source projects that we have at the agency across all of our tiers. And then in terms of the requirements for which sections are mandatory or not, or recommended or not recommended, this is listed over here. So for all of our projects, we require this project members table over here. And based on the maturity of the project, here we recommend or make required certain sections. Yep. And I think that's everything I had to share. Anything to add, Remy?
Yeah. The reason why some of the sections are not required or not recommended is because if you scroll up to the top, where we talk about our maturity model tiers, so tier 0 is typically private repos that are in experimental state, typically single developer, and are not expected to see the light of day. So we do want people to say like, here's who is responsible for this project, but having like a formal maintainer structure for that is like often not necessary and also like not recommended because if you're never releasing it, then giving people the idea that they're going to maintain it, it's going to be maintained rather, is violating expectations, and people could waste time there. So really, the maintainer structure starts to actually kick in starting in around tier 2 when we get to the more like inner source style repositories. Even our tier 1 one-time release projects, we don't recommend that they fill out a lot of that information, but you should at least have like who built it originally and who's responsible for it after it was shipped, so that if we need to follow up with somebody, we have someone's name or someone's contact info. And you know, we're also experimenting now with things like having a help desk for the OSPO, and we have a contact email address, and we have ticket templates. So we're starting to experiment with different levels of SLAs and talking about what expectations we have as an OSPO for picking up some of that, those maintainer requests. Our team talks extensively about how open source culture is not something that you can just add a template to a repo and then the culture appears. People have to actually practice it, right? So the metaphor we've used a lot is you can come up with a shopping cart wish list for all the items that a baseball team needs to play baseball. You need gloves and bats and balls and uniforms and bases. But even if you have all of those things, if you go to play in the big leagues and you've never stepped onto a diamond before, then you're going to have a hard time playing. So it's not just about do you have the bats and the balls, but how do you actually practice and how do you do these things? And that's why we leave a lot of the tier 4 guidance sort of up to the readers as well, because you should be having a descriptive version of what your guidance is. Like, this is how we do things, less so than this is thou shall, because if you're not doing that, then that doesn't reflect the state of the project anyway. So there's always a balance to be had, and we want to help people play better and practice better, and not just say, here, pick up a bat, and here's the shopping cart, good luck. So yeah, that's what we wanted to share today. I know we have a small list of people on the call, but if there's any feedback or ideas folks have here, we definitely wanted to share it early with this group, because we literally shipped it at the beginning of this call. So this is brand new. It just hit the internet.
I will give some feedback, just that I love it, and I want to share this with my colleagues in the Trinidad and Tobago OSPO in a couple hours, just to kind of inspire them. They are just now getting themselves formed, but they have been already thinking about how to organize their upcoming work, and having this type of framework for standardization from the beginning, a way of kind of thinking about things and rolling things out, with this, the scaffolder all, from day one, I think will be a great help to them to stay organized. So thank you, as always, for your efforts and demonstrating things that have been at least somewhat field tested, that are, even if they're fresh. It's great to be learning from colleagues. So happy to share this forward. Thanks, Rick.
Oh, that's really exciting. And as OSPOs go, like, we're relatively fresh too. Like, we started, a little over a year ago now, and our OSPO guide is actually a great starting point. Like, in there, it talks about the resources that we used when we were setting up our scaffolder projects, and when we were starting to figure out how we were managing our repositories and how we do GitHub management. So the OSPO guide repo is a great sort of package of all the things that we have done to set up what we've got. But we would be more than happy to have a separate meeting, talk offline, meet with folks. If folks want to join this group, great. It'd be a fine place to add new OSPOs to the OSPO metrics working group. We do get a little bit into the weeds with some of the more mature OSPOs, but diving into the deep end is usually a great way to pick up culture too. But yeah, that's really exciting, and we're happy to share, because we're basing our stuff off of things from OSPOs that came before us, right? So all boats rise with the tide.
Right. Totally.
So that's what we had on the agenda today. Are there any other agenda items that people wanted to bring up? Also, open floor. If anybody wants to discuss anything else that's not on an agenda, we've still got plenty of time.
I've got something I can share. If no one else has anything urgent, might be just an exciting or interesting thing to see some of the things behind the curtains that we have going on.
Yeah.
I will attempt to find the correct window to share with Zoom. One moment. This is always an adventure to find my tabs. Let's see. Go. Sorry for the delay. Okay. Hopefully you see a browser window.
Yeah.
It's okay. So this is something that has been approved, but it has been publicized a little bit or announced a little bit, but mostly like at one-off events and things. Without getting into the gory details, the UN is really a conglomerate of affiliated agencies. Like I say, we're the world's largest bureaucracy. But we are working, we're leveraging open source to help break down some of those walls and silos. We have basically a network now or a federation of either OSPOs or kind of open source champions within the UN system in this effort that we're calling Open Source United, creatively named, which will basically be trying to find opportunities for collaboration, sharing resources, and doing what we can to share infrastructure and strategy across all of the UN system. So what you're seeing here is one of the earliest things that we have gotten approved, and this is called a common policy framework, but it's basically the tools to set up either OSPOs or official open source policies in any and every UN agency or organization. And so it outlines our governance, and sadly, I don't have permission to actually share this document around, but it's this is probably completely illegible. So let me try to increase it. But goes through, and I'll look at this a little closer here in a minute. Different stages of again maturity model, like Remy was showing, at our agency level, so we can kind of see where we are and where we would like to be, and some of the tasks that any organization should take on, which includes setting up a formalized OSPO along that journey. Things like licensing capture, stuff that I think we all have thought about in the past. How do we track the various projects that are out there? Can we unify our code hosting efforts? Something that kind of unique to the UN is how do you build capacities and skills out in the world for open source? A lot of the countries that we work with in the global majority, the global South, developing world, are really trying to catch up in the tech economy, and we see open source as a strategic way to help them accelerate their progress there. So let me quickly try to scroll down. We have also this thing called open source principles throughout the UN. This is actually something we announced last week, maybe 2 weeks back. This is not just for the UN, it's really for everyone. And these are also kind of common sense things that I think most of us here would already kind of understand. But it's a way, especially for organizations that may not have their own open source strategy, to help them think about this and integrate open source philosophy and work into their organization. So this is something organizations can endorse. I'll find a link for more information about this if people are interested in officially signing on. And we're going to try to highlight some of the organizations out there who have signed on to this, again, just to share the word, spread the word of what everyone's doing, trying to be good open source citizens. These are the stages that I mentioned, and each one, for each of the stages, we have some categories that may or may not be implicated. So governance structures that should be in place, whether or not they're optional or recommended or required at this stage, again, to help them kind of plot out a roadmap for themselves. Having an agency's set of core policy statements around open source, having tools and policies in place for licensing and compliance, being able to catalog the software that they're using or contributing to or supporting in some way. Having a clear strategy for a code hosting platform and doing capacity building activities along the way. And so as you move through the stages, more and more things start to be required. And there's general guidance, for the types of things you should be doing at each of these stages. Really kind of, well, you see a self-assessment, something that someone should be able to go into their own organization and understand where they are and where they'd like to be, and work hopefully with their management to get buy-in and eventually support and maybe even some funding here and there to do some of these things. So we go in and talk in detail about which, some of the details behind each of these activities. Walking through some tools of how to do these self-assessments. We also established, this is kind of interesting, what we're tentatively calling the UN Open Source Strategic Implementation Board. This is basically a open source style governance body across the entire UN to help kind of build these tools up, do the stewardship of, some things that we'll have in terms of common resources and common infrastructure that we have. We started to do some work around licensing and then realized that we don't need to have our own license, thankfully. There were a lot of people who were panicked about this, but we brought in quite a panel of experts and had a lot of discussions and debate about that. So we try to answer some of these initial questions that we are frequently asked by people just getting accustomed to the UN world. We will be launching a website real soon now, once it gets through the UN communications approvals process, called opensource.un.org. We'll have kind of a shared catalog platform where people can kind of track the projects that we're working on, and then link out to wherever they're maintained. Part of that is we're also we have launched already a GitHub instance, GitLab instance for UN sponsored projects. This is our own self-hosted GitLab instance in the UN extraterritorial jurisdiction. So we can also do some strategic mirroring of projects where we worry about people's access due to embargoes and other activities that might block people's access to free and open source software. So we are kind of strategically using that not only for our own practical purposes, but also in partnership with other people out in the open source world. And I think those are the highlights. Again, GitLab, as many projects have received, GitLab has granted us licenses and things for their CI infrastructure. So we'll have the full package available to folks. And is there anything else in here worth highlighting? The capacity building program, we're doing a lot of these. You just heard about one of them, which is this event that we had. There will be some other activities, some advisory groups that we're going to try to convene over the coming year. We're figuring out what to do around social media. This was, we've kind of abandoned Twitter now, but we'll move on to some other frontiers as well. And then do training within the UN system as well for our colleagues to help them get upskilled fairly quickly. So that's all this is, but the takeaway here is the world's largest bureaucracy has broken down some walls. Thank you to open source and thank you to the OSPO concept. And I'm happy to be part of it. There are about, just for your reference, I think there are like 60 or 70 people on our distribution list across all the different UN agencies. So we're also now able to quickly refer people to who in the World Health Organization is doing this and kind of cross those borders. Without any kind of top-down thing, it was all very organic, kind of bottom-up growth here. So good news on that front, and it's positioning us to, like I say, reach out and be more positive open source citizens and be more collaborative with you all along the way. So look forward to more UN folks joining groups and events and conferences over time. Over.
Oh, this is so exciting. Love looking at the GitLab instance. I don't even, even if it's just the logos all in one place, it is really something to see all of the UN components there like that. We in the federal side of things would love to imagine a world where we could just have a list of every agency with all of their code, and the new Share IT Act might be helping out with some of the mechanics for getting that together. But I see a lot of parallels here. It's fun. In our team, we talk about the OSI model of of the stack, right? And we have like the data layer and the hardware layer, and that's where a lot of hackers are really doing a lot of their work. And then above that individual layer, you get into the organizational layer and the government layer, and now this is like a international layer. And to really see it coming together as like a cohesive concept with open source at the core of it, just such exciting work to see being done at the UN here. Um, Really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that preview. We cannot wait to see the doc when it's ready. We cannot wait to visit the website when it's up. We would love to. I already know that like I see some places where I'm like, I think we could send a pull request adding some color coding to some of those fields, and like what does optional mean versus recommended, like some of those kinds of questions that I immediately have, where I'm like, I'd love to dive in and like provide some of that context, and get some dialogue going, because we can learn a lot from what you folks have going there. It's really exciting work that you folks have done.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. We like to say the UN is for everybody, right? It's we love to feel that people will feel more like involved, that they can contribute to the UN efforts in some way. You don't just have to be a government appointed liaison, right? There's opportunities for everyone, and we do some of this through the SDG working group, right? Is this idea of how people can engage with these things, but there are also some other frontier, like some really practical things people can do. Like you say, there's contributions to be made, both at the UN level, and the more governments that we get into being good open source citizens, I think the better. I'll leave with drop one more link, and some people may have seen. This started in France. This is this thing called Blue Hats. This is something we're also trying to start promoting more, which is getting more civil servants of various types, government or non-government, who feel that they're kind of oriented towards civil service, involved in promoting and advocating for open source and using it wherever they can. So we see this as part of a larger global movement that we can help inspire, and create many more RIMIs and many more government agencies around the world, because is kind of part of our goal here. So we'll keep chopping away. There's been a lot of talk in the last couple months, especially about being cutting resources to government activities, right? And our position, it's not formalized, like our position is generally that in a world full of diminishing resources, it's more important than ever to embrace the global digital cooperation model, which open source has a proven track record of being able to support. So we think people are going to lean into. Thank you, yeah, for that link. France is doing amazing things. They've also got they've got this online document collaboration tool. This is from the Blue Hats, by the way. They've also got a web conferencing tool, like a Zoom BBB style, Jitsi style tool that I was just dog fooding with them last week, which is really cool. So they're working hard, and yeah, we think this is going to be a way for people to engage and support, their own governments at all levels, not just national governments, but even at the city governments where they have much fewer resources. There'll be a lot more opportunities for the OSPO style thinking to take hold. So we'll see what the exact forms are, but I think there's a big promise here on the horizon. Remy, you're on mute.
Yeah, absolutely. And the that project, that the numeric that was put out, really incredible tools. I love hearing about the video chat as well. Our agency is having discussions right now about which platforms are cost effective, and the open source ones tend to come with less upfront costs. Obviously, there are always going to be maintenance costs and infrastructure costs, but if people are really serious about austerity, then open source tends to be an excellent strategy in times of lean times, right? So, we love to see it. And for the record, I think the emojis in that repository specifically are just so spot on, like just the cutest. And you don't get to see like mascots like that at every project. So I'm trying to think of like what the US version of like our national food would be. I guess we would have like 50 different national foods probably, but
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's
a little
very
whimsy
cool to
goes a
see.
long way to motivate people.
Hmm.
And
No,
yeah, I think
it's
it's going to grow. I dropped in this from the register like yesterday. Many more governments rapidly are saying, "Hey, we need to like invest in our own solutions." But and this is, I think, where OSPOs in their role can shine, like of helping them understand that you can balance independence and interdependence. Right? You can balance digital sovereignty with digital cooperation. Right? We've seen it in the private sector through OSPOs. Right? We've got tech giants collaborating, fiercely competitive tech giants happily collaborating on strategic initiatives, and we can do the same in the public sector as well. And OSPOs have shown us the way to do it.
Yeah, and it's still so new. I mean, this OSPO thing, you folks are, standing up brand new OSPOs over the next couple of years in a number of countries, and it's really exciting to see. And we just got our first one in the Fed agencies in the U.S., right? So, we're still pretty early on in our OSPO journey, but 30% of the Fortune 100 companies have OSPOs at this point. We know that it works in the private sector. You don't have to take my word for it.
Yeah.
Um, and so, we're helping to demonstrate that value and really bring that close to the agencies where the rubber meets the road, where we can actually help provide services to citizens and users and the government. Like, you know, we're starting to get to the point now where we have some great use cases we can point at, um, and things have matured. Open source is still also pretty young as a discipline. So love to see the principles, love to see the new open source united stuff that you're putting out there. Love to see the stuff that's happening at the national level and the international level with the peers. It's great that we have the CHAOSS community here to share all this stuff. It's so exciting. I know that there's a lot going on in the world right now, and it's really important to be able to share these kinds of stories and this type of collaboration where people are coming together to solve real world problems and doing it in the open. So, you know, thank you for everyone who joined today. I know we had someone late join, so I'll put out a call again if there's any other agenda items, open floor, if anyone wants to share anything here. Uh, we're happy to give you some time and make sure that your voice is heard on the call as well in our last minute or two.
So I think
Otherwise, yep.
I want to say something. It's not really like about sharing stuff, but I've been fascinated about like the work you guys do in OSPOs. And while I'm not affiliated with one, I've actually done a couple of stuff in documentation with To-Do Group, and I'm excited to be in the call. And I've been joining the calls to like learn more, explore more, and see where I can like get my hands on. So putting out there to say thank you to like everyone, and I'm open to like learning as well, as much as like going through the document and the link to like learn one or two while scrapping through various things. So like, thank you for everyone putting the work and your organizations as well. It's a pleasure. I believe that OSPO is like the future of public collaboration in technology amongst nations. So thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you for being here too, Harmony. And the CHAOSS community has a Slack. If anyone wants to join up, there is an OSPO working group, there's a government working group, there's an education working group. So that URL, I'll see if I can come up with off the top of my head, but I probably can't, is chaos-workspace.slack.com. You should be able to request an invite through that. And the working group dash OSPO working group, it's WG dash OSPO where a lot of these folks hang out, but there's also the WG dash government group and the WG dash UN dash SDG where folks who are working on the Sustainable Development Goals working group are also hanging out. There's a lot of overlap between these three different groups, it turns out, here in CHAOSS. So it's great to see everyone. I think the official time ending is quarter till for this. So I want to be respectful of everyone's calendars. So thank you everyone for attending today. We appreciate your contributions, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.